My name's Angie Verros. I'm from Chicago, not from New York. And Steve always makes fun of me.
You make
But
fun of me.
but David's got, it's all in fun. David's got my back though. I have been in the recruitment space for almost 20 years. I started off in agency. I think I've done it all, worked large companies, small companies, stockbroker turned recruiter. Just wanted to bring that out. And I used to work in New York, Steve. And
there's a good story you have about the
yeah,
interview.
about the interview. Yeah, a lot of good stories,
Yeah.
stories. And I own a sourcing firm called Via Talent, and we help companies when they're looking to scale. We help them when they don't have internal bandwidth. We have a lot of fun with our clients. Sometimes not a lot of fun with our clients. No, I'm just kidding. We have a lot of fun with our clients. I'm extremely passionate about sourcing, about recruitment, about all things talent acquisition. I got into this business because I wanted to help people. When I was on the other side of the desk, I felt like I wasn't getting the help that I wanted from recruiters. And so I'm hoping that one person at a time, I make a difference. So anybody who's on here or watching, please feel free to connect. I would love to. I mentioned earlier that sharing is caring. So whatever we could do to help.
Mhm.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, Steve.
I will verify that, in fact, is Angie's story. I'm Steve Levy. I was an engineer who crossed over to the dark side into this wonderful profession because for most of us, we don't choose recruiting. Recruiting chooses us. Sometimes that says a lot about our decision-making process. Nonetheless, hello, Paul, you made it back. Nonetheless, I've been recruiting now for, I will say the number, 37 years. I know longer than Angie's been alive.
I know. I just turned 23.
Exactly.
I know I don't look it, but yeah.
Exactly. I have run recruiting. I have run elements of recruiting. I've run sourcing. I've built sourcing. I'm considered, if you think of Shawshank Redemption and the steps in the Shawshank Redemption, Jerry Crispin is red. He's at the top step. I am a couple levels below that in terms of steps. Not saying I'm anything close to Jerry, but he and I will be discussing this afternoon. So there's so much I think I've done, that Angie's done, that Paul has done in this field, that we're going to bore. I don't want to bore the hell out of you. You can this thing called Google. You can use it to find us information about us. Thank you for joining, Paul.
Hello.
Hello. How was traffic in Minnesota?
It was fine.
You make fun of everybody's accent. What's wrong with you, Steve?
Everything's wrong with Steve.
Yeah.
It's a long answer.
Yeah, but at least Steve's an equal opportunity offender. Everyone's
That's true.
So it's
That's
equal
true.
across the board. Paul, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself for those who may not be familiar with you?
Hi, Paul DeBettignies. I'm in Minneapolis. I'm in a phone booth-like thing at the co-working space in downtown Minneapolis, which is why the white lighting's all weird. I have been in the source recruit, talent advisor state of space for 25 some years. Tech, product, digital design, helping companies with hiring strategies, startups, Fortune 500 folks. Thinking that the day-to-day delivery of candidates is becoming such a grind that I need to change me in what will be version 5 or 6 of Paul DeBettignies in 2024. We'll try not to drop as many F-bombs as I did last week. That was a solid number that I probably don't want to try to compare to again.
No, but it was a good number.
Yeah, it was a good solid.
It was a good solid number.
I started really calm last week, as I am now. And then that whole green banner open to work thing set my brain off.
Yeah.
Well, guess what, Paul? You and I have known each other for about 25 years.
Yeah.
And we both had very smooth skin when we started.
Yep.
But the whole point of recruiter therapy is to channel, in many respects, how our brethren are feeling.
And it's a reminder too that Angie, I don't want to speak for you, but for Steve and I think we need this as much as anybody else who's listening needs this, right? Like I've got stuff, I have angst about, I've attended a lot of events in Minneapolis the last 3 months, and We were at the Minnesota Tech Association event last week. It was 250 plus people, mostly Fortune 500 companies, all in the tech space. I know that hiring in our town in that space or that part of our community is down. I didn't realize it was like cratered.
Yeah.
And then last night we had our Disrupt HR event in Minneapolis. And that, you think about Disrupt HR and you think about like all the things that go into that. The funny part is that President Biden was a block and a half away and completely disrupted the event. So like to get into the event at Disrupt HR was a disruption. And that ended up being a pretty funny theme though. Like all the things that we've had to overcome in our, whether it's recruiting, sourcing, HR space. I don't like talking about these things, but I got a community involvement award last night and they gave me a microphone and I actually didn't say much. Thank you. But I said something though that I hadn't really, the last years have been a ass kicker.
Mm-hmm.
And it was super interesting to watch a room of a couple hundred people go, just like you all did.
Yeah.
And so it's this part about, this is as good for me to get some of this stuff out as anyone who's listening. And so that's why I hope that they will join in these conversations today and the ones we'll have in the future. Because we're the ones hosting this does not mean that we're immune to this. We're probably the biggest needers of the conversation.
You know, on that point, Paul, what's, and I know everyone here, you and Angie and Shannon and David, you know, many people here, the number of requests to chat I receive a week from people in our profession probably accounts for now about a third of the conversations I'm having every week.
I believe it.
And, you know, Anita asked earlier, I'm going to go back to her right now to get it. She goes, will you tell us what you're seeing in the market for candidates or those who are hiring? Can recruiters find jobs today? Just want your overview. I think the interesting thing is just because of probably the only time where my longevity, you know, gives me the historical perspective. But, you know, I remember coming out of college in 1980. And those are the years, by the way, when it took you 10 years to get the word senior in a job title. Now it takes maybe, well, I've been here 3 weeks. When am I going to get my promotion? You know, that's a whole nother issue. But I remember that. I remember the crash, and you know, the 86, 87. I remember 91. I remember 93. I remember when PCs came on board because I was an engineer. I was helping to bring them in and install them. I remember the internet, you know, 98 when that boom took off.
When Al Gore invented the internet, you remember?
I remember when Al Gore invented the internet, and back there in 98 when Java developers with 2 years were getting about $1.25.
That's just when I started recruiting.
November. But that, yeah, I do. But then we had the Y2K, you know, oh, the world didn't end. Y2K is when everyone thought the machines would stop because of this little thing called COBOL and the date factor, date variable. That didn't change. Then 9/11, then 2003, boom. Then 2006, 2007, boom. And each and every time, there is a period of massive uncertainty. There have been layoffs in every blessed one of those periods. And most people manage to come out of it probably a little poorer with a couple of scars, but they've learned lessons and they move forward. So what I see now in Angie and Paul, please jump in. What I see is, because I figured at the beginning of the year, I said roughly July 1st, you're going to start seeing little trickles. Labor Day, post-Labor Day, even more. Getting close to Thanksgiving is like, oh shit, we're not getting our things done. We need to hire again. That's what I see starting to happen. I keep multiple Google alerts across all the different ATSs. So every morning I see, you know, the number of jobs that are scraped. I keep tracking a spreadsheet of LinkedIn openings for certain Booleans, and I see those are going up, 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 and up. So they're there. Now, the challenge, though, is that you have an inordinate number of people vying for the same job. And we're left with real dynamics. And the real dynamics are, number one, no special order, those who are left, who are doing the recruiting right now, are, I don't want to say they're overworked, but they're overworked and they're not getting, and their candidate experience, as we identified from the candidates talent board's pulse reports, are headed down for the basements. They're the worst they've ever seen, and from apocryphal, they're the worst I've ever seen too. But it's gonna get a little better. It is getting better, but you can't just do the same thing. You can't just apply and sit back and think somebody who really doesn't know how to recruit yet is going to magically, do a mind meld to your resume and go, oh, that's the person.
Well, and there needs to be a reminder, because I keep, I'm in Minneapolis and I keep trying to say to folks that industry matters, location matters, right? And so when someone says, are people hiring recruiters? I always ask the question, where are you talking about in one industry and how much experience? Because it really is that nuanced, right? The Friday jobs numbers will come out at 7:30 Central Time Friday morning. There's always the top line number. I always look later in the afternoon to figure out, okay, what was the Midwest versus the South, the East, and the West Coast? Because if you look at the numbers, it's the southern states that have been having more layoffs than some of the other regions, and that flows around. And the other part is, again, the hard part is, so like here in town, if I heard it correctly, so I won't name the company, just it's a Fortune like large 500 company, but I don't know if the company, if I have the right company, but they laid off 80 corporate recruiters on Tuesday. Wells Fargo laid off 50 some, whatever the number was last week. The hard part is that there are more jobs being posted, true, but it's 1, 2s, and 5s, but we're still laying off 15, 50, and 80, and 100.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, the jobs are going up. There is still an abundant supply of us recruiters who are looking. So yes, there's anecdotal evidence of it getting better. Winter in Minneapolis will happen and the ice will melt faster than the recruiter job market's going to come back across the US.
Yeah, I think if I could just add to that, I agree. I think that I have seen a lot of activity, if you will.
Yeah.
I'll reference to David Marr's posts. He's on post number 57 of all the openings. I mean, at first it was, 3 or 4 openings, and now it's a long, long list of openings. But we hear of those layoffs, right? The 50 and the 80 and the 100. And as a matter of fact, we hear of companies that are completely removing TA teams from their organization. So what happens while activity is increasing? What happens to those organizations when they need to go on a hiring frenzy again, and they don't have talent acquisition teams? Are we going to go back to let's just hire everybody and everybody and everybody and pay them the highest amount possible because we need to fill these roles? What happens then? So that's where I'm, new jobs every day. But there's tons of people in our network and people that I know, people that are amazing sourcers and recruiters that can't find jobs. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know.
And I think it's the part where it's a yes, right? I think we keep living in an either or world. Yeah. And we live in a very yes and blurry world. And so so again, last night at the event, I had a couple of conversations with corporate recruiter friends who are looking for jobs, and they're really down about it. And they keep saying, well, I doom scroll on LinkedIn and my friend this and my friend that. I said, but the problem is you don't know what they're doing with their job search. I'm sorry, but you need to run your race. You need to be, you're swinging your clubs on the golf course. You can't worry about what other people are doing with their stuff. You just can't. And the doom scrolling thing, then unplug. There isn't enough significant positive news to outweigh all of the other news. There just isn't. And so keeping our own mental health in check or monitored or being self-aware, whatever phrase I should be using,
one way. Angie.
Steve, thank you. No, I think one thing that we should take advantage of, since we are in the business of people, and I know that's so cliche that we say that, but what do we do as recruiters? We help people find jobs. We help companies fill their roles, right? I think this is the time where you don't sit back. Everybody's going to do it differently, right? But you don't sit back, apply to a job and hope that something's going to happen, right? I think you have to use your network. I think at this point, because of the way that we are as a community, also take advantage of your network. I mean, I'm doing business development to grow my firm, and I am networking with everybody in the space, because I mean, naturally that's what I do. But if you want to work somewhere, or if you do see that posting that David's sharing on LinkedIn, or anybody that is sharing, don't hesitate. Don't fear reaching out to somebody, right? I mean, that's what I would do. Reach out to that person. I reached out to David. I asked him to connect me with someone. Didn't happen. Nothing happened yet, David. I know you're watching, but it will one day. But I think take advantage of that. Use us as resources. Use the industry, the community as resources. It's so supportive. And we talked about this at one of our other webinar, Steve. It's an amazing community that helps each other out. I'm thrilled to be here, by the way, on number 4. I don't know what you guys talked about on the last ones with a green banner and all that stuff, but happy to chime in however I can. But however I can help, hit me up.
Yeah, I want to shout out David put in 2 other people who are very active posting jobs that they see, Haley Neal and Swati Tony. They're both fine people to connect with and follow them. What you can do is, if you see someone, like you take, like you connect with David, you connect with Haley, you connect to Swati, you pin those posts in LinkedIn, you make sure that they are at the top of your feed. I mean, those
I'm just kidding.
what? Okay, no. We
I
can
mean,
show you how to.
For someone who loves LinkedIn.
You're talking about me?
Yeah, you know a lot of stuff.
I can't help it. I've been on LinkedIn since 2004. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's like I can't un-LinkedIn myself.
Yeah.
But the part is it's more than just networking these days.
Yes.
Others have not disagreed with me. Kunwar, don't put in the chat stuff, because I know where you live. So just she's
It's
Kunwar,
why I'm smirking. It's why I'm
don't worry.
smirking.
Don't worry, Kunwar. He can't do anything.
Yeah.
He
Don't
can't
worry.
do
We
it.
know where Steve lives too. So don't worry about
Yeah, we know where Steve lives. Yeah, exactly. He lives in New York.
Kunwar doesn't have, but the thing to do are, let's, and then we do have a whole slew of questions which are really good, but please take an active role. I know it's really hard sometimes to do so, but I keep track of, I do my networking, but if I see a job out there, I apply. I've said this before. I apply. Why? I don't have to apply. I probably know, but I want to see what the candidate experience is like.
True.
So
True.
collect data from, these jobs that you see. Check to see when they get back, what they write to you. Is it human? Is it inhuman? Is it a template or not? Then I'm sorry, you'll write a post about it. Don't mention the names of the recruiters. Mention the company. Look, I was very interested in working for this company, this type thing. But I'm very concerned about the degradation of candidate experience. And then offer things that you would do to help fix the problem. I wrote a post yesterday about being a recruiter who is inclusively screens, versus someone who screens to include versus screens to exclude. I probably mixed those up. Paul, I think you saw that one yesterday.
I didn't, but I love this idea. Yes.
But yeah, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but write about it. Sarah, for example, I'm so sorry that you were laid off yesterday, but your perspective in RM is such that you can almost offer a free insight post into how you may positively change a company's experience for people who are interested in working there. There's nothing wrong. You can write about it off the top of your head in 15 minutes. As a recruiter or sourcer, if you're interested in a certain company, go look at the jobs they have open. Pick a job that's listed there and do some impromptu sourcing for them and write a post. Tag a recruiter. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Well, and let's talk about the economy part of this for a second. It's a parallel to what you're saying. It's also that I know that most of us are, most people are going to be looking for full-time roles. So again, I was polling like lots and lots of events the last 3 months. And so last night it was Like 2 of the 3 largest HR recruiter consulting firms in town were sponsors of this event. And I know the managing director, so I had conversations with them. I said, hey, like, where's our market at? And again, I'm specifically talking about Minneapolis, Midwest, okay, because they're also in Chicago. And I asked the question, right? So normally in an economy that is healing, companies will start to hire contractors, consultants, or project folks before they want to hire a full-time employee because they want to make sure the business is stable, and then they'll start hiring full-time folks because if the business goes south, they can let a contractor go. My question to both of them was, are we yet to that stage in the Minneapolis economy? And both said no. Like, they were emphatic about it. We have not yet hit the part where companies are feeling that things have healed enough that they feel confident a little bit. So, but also understand that in the Midwest, in Minneapolis and Chicago, it is also not, we didn't have all of the fear and craziness of West Coast tech. In the Midwest, right, we tend to be a little more sane, safe, and stable. Okay. But one of the things I would be doing though, is that if you are, I mean, if you do a post that says, while I'm looking for full-time work, I'm open to project and contract work. Like, at the end of the day, like, I want everyone to have a job, but I need everybody to get money in their checking account.
Yeah.
And I don't care how that happens. And I think that for some of us, we need to care a little less about how that happens right now.
I mean, really, it does come down to we talk about compensation. If you're making so much and they're paying this, and look, unemployment can only pay so many bills. Sometimes you may have to, there's nothing wrong with getting let's say you're used to making 150,000 and a job that pays 120,000. Let's be honest, 30,000, unless you're overly leveraged, 120 still isn't chicken feed.
So there's a couple friends of mine here in town who they're getting 70 an hour and they're working 30 hours a week. It is not what they were making as a full-time employee. They don't have benefits. All of that's true. They are doing better now than they were 30 days ago financially, right? They can keep the lights on. They don't have to worry about, like, do we have to take a kid out of a program? Like, they're getting by. Yeah. And I would suggest right now that getting by is also a win. Like, we got to get through now to get to the other side versus wanting what we had 6 months ago, right? Like, this is the time for us to you got to, I keep just using this phrase, you got to get through the here and now to get to the other side.
Paul, there are periods, and you and I, it was real lean for some years.
Well, look, I've never been shy about this. During the summer of 20, I didn't bill a penny for 4.5 months. I tried. I was working my tail off. I got so frustrated. I didn't give it up. I just stopped. I didn't need to have more rejections. I didn't need to be told no. I didn't have a huge nest egg to fall back on, but I was tired. I was stressed, right? We were all worrying about a bunch of things. And I took a little time off and I did some writing and I took care of me. And I totally trimmed down my lifestyle. Now, again, it helps because, again, I want to say it helps, right? Like, at that time, I have not been married and I don't have kids. I have less financial commitment or overhead than some of my friends do. So I'm able to live, not that you want to be doing that at, what was I, 50? I just turned 50 when COVID happened, right? Like, you didn't want to live like a cockroach, but I didn't care because, like, I just needed to get through those 6-9 months or whatever it was going to be. And so that's my advice, though, is that you trim things down. And so whether it's the stuff that doesn't matter, like you don't go to Starbucks every day, because you do what you need to do to get through this.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been there too, in the last 20 years in this business and agency where I wasn't making any placements. I wasn't making any money. I had a newborn child, had to take care of her. And it was tough, but I agree with you, Paul. I think you do whatever it takes to get by, to get through the tough time, knowing that it will come back. It is difficult. A lot of our friends are hurting. A lot of people. I mean, my business is hurting. And I'm not ashamed to say it, the recruitment world is not what it used to be.
Yep.
And I've taken a step back in a lot of different things, but, have also focused on trying to take better care of myself because I was hitting burnout where I was doing way too much. And you know, one day at a time. You're not gonna look and say, oh, in 6 months I'm gonna be here. One day at a time, I think, is what you need to do. There's nothing else you can do. I talked to one of our industry peers who is probably one of the best sourcers I've known. And he's telling me he can't get a job. And every time he applies to an individual contributor role, he's not getting any callbacks. He's not getting any conversations because he managed people before. And a company hiring him at a discount, pretty much, because he would not be making what he's making, would be so over the top to have him. But because
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a manager, they're not taking him. And so there are people that are doing that. There are people that are taking steps back so that they can have some form of income. They're not doing the 150, right, Steve? And they are getting the 120, but they're not even given the opportunity to take the 120, right? Because
Yep.
they're not at the 150 level. So it is frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. And you know, sometimes you look at these posts and you're like, yes, everything is getting better and better and better. And then you hear of, you know, 80 more slashes. I don't know.
One of the things that I've made a mistake, well, I continue to make this mistake, I don't seem to learn from it, is there's an assumption on my part in my city that I'm always busy. And so in September during startup week, and then the first week in October, I had two different people who I know really, really well who said, Paul, we had projects, we were going to send them your way, but we know you're really busy, so you went with somebody else. And in my brain, I'm like, I've never been so effing busy. At least I filter that one. I've never been so effing busy that I didn't want to hear about new work, right? And so it is now incumbent upon myself, though. So I do know, like, I'm roughly at about 55% capacity. I'll be at 30 December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to start saying to folks, and it really is, because I know that I'm talking to it's the four of us, 5 with Ashley, right? It's not anyone else who is or will listen to this. So I feel comfortable saying this to you all. I don't do a good job of telling people that I'm available or that I've got extra time, or that the other part is that people will say, but Paul, we don't need all of you. We only needed a part of you. So we went somewhere else. I have a marketing of me problem. And I would suggest that if I have a marketing of me problem, most of us have a marketing of me problem.
Agreed.
Right.
100%.
And so I've had friends really late. Like, I had a 2x4 in the back of my head a couple of weeks ago by a friend of mine who was like, here's the advice you gave me 2 years ago. And here's the amount of the advice you've done. And they just stared at me. And they're like, you know, it's
we're all the same way. You know, there is the assumption that the folks here, you know, those of us who are in our close inner circle, some are on the chat here.
Yep.
You know, some are people, Ange, that we all at RecFest we go out with. That we have it, that people are falling over themselves to hire us. That's not the case.
It is easier sometimes because we have a brand. It is easier sometimes because we are known.
Absolutely. Look, I just locked in a speaking gig in India in December because of being known.
Yeah.
But you know, that's nice. Those are great. Doing these things are great. You know, calling people, bringing people from our chat onto this call. I mean, that's I think one of the things that we all like to do. We want to give everybody visibility, but to be visible and to ask for help means you have to show an inordinate amount of vulnerability.
Yep.
And the hard part about being a recruiter is that there is the belief that we know everybody, that we know how to do this. You know, the point is, yes, but you know, so do a lot of other people. So you have to keep working on it.
Half the room way more than half the room last night when I got that nice award, which was cool.
Yeah.
Don't know who I am. Right. And if you search Minnesota Headhunter on Google, I am half the search page of Google. Right. And if you do Minnesota Recruiter, I'm probably a third. There's a lot of people who don't know who I am and what I do. And it's a reminder to me that I need to do a better job of that. There's something that, Steve, by the way, you and I texted about. I want to take a hard right turn.
Okay.
Because there was something in here about being afraid of a reduction. For those who are listening to this now or who will, we touched on this a little bit of this last time. If you have to have everyone has to have their LinkedIn profile and resume ready to go now, both for the good and for the bad, right? Like, if it's the thing I would do this weekend. In fact, maybe that'll be the thing we should all post on LinkedIn. If here's your to-do for Friday on a LinkedIn post for this weekend, shut down your LinkedIn profile and update it. I'm guessing most of us haven't done that in the last 6 months. And
to that point, by the way, to that point, everyone here, please make sure your contact information is your current contact information and not an email from a job 5 years ago. Everybody do that. And if you're not working at a company anymore, take down their fugly banner and put up one for yourself. Do not market for some shit-stained company that let you go.
Go, Steve. Tell us how you really feel, Steve.
Paul?
First of all, I'm thrilled that you're the one who's going to get the video cut for this week, not me. Also, I would suggest to not make it hard on yourself, right? Make sure you have a secondary email address on your LinkedIn profile if you are using your company email address.
Yeah.
You know, because it's easier now to get it back than it was years ago, right? Because you get let go, your email gets turned off, you go to log in, you can't remember your password, you get your your password sent to your work email, it bounces, you never get it. Now you got to do the driver's license game and all that stuff. But like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, you couldn't even do that. Like, it was a nightmare. Like, make sure you actually have access to your LinkedIn profile and get everything ready to go. Because there is the flip side. And Angie, you were saying this. There is a part, I'm convinced of this. And I'm not trying to do like a false positive sort of thing. When we get to the other side of whatever this is, I am convinced that there is a great resignation, the sequel coming to an employer.
Oh, 100%.
But hold on though. But it needs to be tempered. Most sequels suck. This won't be like the last one. It might be a third as big, might be half as big, but it's still going to be bigger than most employers are ready for. And so that's the reason to also have your LinkedIn profile and your resume ready, because when things start to turn in your city, in your industry, in the vertical in which you recruit, you best damn be ready. And it's the other reason to have your network up and running. It's not just for now. It's for 3 and 6 months from now when things turn quick, that you can take advantage of that opportunity versus watching something pass you by. We have got to start learning from our mistakes. And rant.
You sure?
Yeah, because I think Angie's going to go from that to some other really good topic. I can see it on her face.
Oh, really?
Go, girl. Go, girl.
What do you want me to talk about? Top Gun? Goose? I'm just kidding. No, I agree. I agree with all of that. And I will go, I'm going to take it one step back to the market yourself. It's so important because people don't know who you are as much as you may think they know who you are. So funny story, Paul, you probably don't remember this, but I met you at an event I don't even remember where it was. You were in an elevator and we were walking over to a conference and I said, Paul, you're the Minnesota recruiter, aren't you? And you were probably looking at me like, who are you? I knew who you were. I don't know if I followed you. I don't know. I was just kind of getting into
followed him into the elevator, you stalker.
No, we were staying at the same place and we were going across. It was an event. I don't even remember where it was. I'll find out though. It was the same event, Steve, that I saw you. I didn't know anybody in the space. And it was the same event.
Dallas, I think.
I think so.
Maybe it was Dallas. Yes.
Dallas.
It was the same one where you had written on the on one of the signs, follow me. Steve Levy was here. And I was like, oh my God, I finally get to meet Steve. Anyway, I knew who you guys were because you were writing, you were vocal, you were posting. And so I thought, well, I'm going to do that, but I'm not a writer and nobody knows who I am, but I didn't care. I just started doing it. And then I met Jerry and Jerry's like, young gal, you're doing a really good thing about getting out there and doing social stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's great. He found out who I was because I was everywhere. I was writing. I didn't know how to write, but I wrote stuff. I was doing podcasts. I was talking to people. I was just everywhere to get known. And then somehow I created a little brand for myself. It still doesn't matter. I mean, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. It's still hard on this side, even though Steve, you have a brand, Paul, you have a brand. We worked hard at, building a brand.
Oh, heck.
It's hard when you're uncomfortable. I always tell people, feel comfortable with getting uncomfortable, because you'll step outside of your ordinary day to day and you'll do something to get, for people to notice you. So that's my biggest advice I'm going to tell everybody on this call. And I'm going to use, aside from Steve and Paul on this call, like David Marr on this, who's one of our, watching this. He started posting stuff, started posting jobs, created a list, and started sharing things. And now everybody knows who David Marr is, because he's sharing the roles. Does it take time? Yes. Does it take time to compile the list? Yes. Does it take time to do the research? Yes. He does it because he cares about the people, he cares about the industry, and he steps outside of his comfort zone to do that. So that's one thing that I would say is figure out a better way to market yourselves and get out there. Don't fear reaching out to someone. Don't fear. I mean, I know people fear reaching out to Steve to ask him for advice, but don't fear that. I'm just kidding, Steve.
This isn't about being internet famous, though. Can we stipulate that? This is not about trying to see how many views and likes and shares of a LinkedIn post. It's not. It's how can I hate saying this stuff out loud. I think the reason why I got recognized last night is because I have been busting my ass for a number of years to help support our local HR and recruiter community.
Yep.
And by doing that, though, it's like, these are my friends. These are people who I know. At the end of the event last night, a woman walked up to me and I knew her. And if she sees this, I'm going to feel like crap, by the way. I knew her. Well, she's my fraternity brother's wife, who I haven't seen in 2 years. And I forgot that she was in HR. And next thing I know, she's right in front of me. And it took me about like 6 seconds, but 6 seconds is an eternity. If you know the person and you just haven't seen them and you go that long with, oh shit, right? And we had this long conversation about who we know and who's looking for a job and who's hiring and like who's like, we immediately get into who do we know that we can lend a hand to? And sometimes lending a hand is saying, I don't know how. Like I remember doing a post during COVID that there's this, sometimes in my area, it's like, I feel like I'm supposed to know everything. And I don't know how many times I said, I don't know during the summer of COVID. And I'm starting to do it again now. Like, I don't know. And I feel horrific. I feel like I'm letting people down. Not because I'm supposed to be that amazing and not because I don't know. But there is some power in saying, I don't know, because you are at least trying and you are listening. And it's also the part that I appreciate that, like, you can't save everyone, right? I said, I think at the first call we did, I don't know how to swim. I love the water. I love to fish. I love being on a dock. I love being in a boat, but I don't know how to swim, truly. And so if we're all in a boat and Steve Levy gets knocked out, and so now I need to go save him because it's in my nature to go get Steve. But if I didn't grab a floaty, we both died. And so I do need to take care of me first. I need to take care of, like, put on your oxygen mask first before you put on the person next to you in the airplane, right?
Yeah.
But there are ways, and David's doing this and others are doing this too, though. Like, we do know things, though, that could be helpful to other people. Everyone who's commenting on the chat knows something.
Yeah.
That could be of help to someone else who could do that LinkedIn post later today, tomorrow, or save it for Monday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern, hit all the time zones.
Yep.
That can talk about, here's the thing I did, or here's something I learned, or here's an experience I'm going through. Because if we had more people sharing, more of us would be learning.
Correct. And I agree with what you said, Paul. It's not internet. I mean, whoever came up with that internet HR famous or whatever stuff, it's not about that.
Nope.
It's about getting out there and truly sharing. And I will say, I needed so much help when I was in agency and I knew nobody. And just getting out there, as soon as I learned something or I read something, I felt like I needed to share it with everybody and get it out there so that people knew that there was a community, that people knew that there were resources that could help each other out. And it was really about that. And I've stopped. I shouldn't say I've stopped. I've slowed down in doing that. And then when I do share something, I get these amazing comments from people like, wow, that's so helpful. Thank you, or whatever. And it makes me feel good, but it also helps the community as well. So yeah, I don't know. I think we're in a very unpredictable time right now. And I love what we do as a team here. I love what we do as just an entire community where we help each other out, because I think someone mentioned in the chat, it's genuine and we want to do it. We want to help each other out. And I always say that. I always take calls from people who are who are looking to, to just make a connection, or if they need, can you introduce me to so-and-so? I have, I don't know, 2 or 3, probably 5 of those calls a week, if not more. I know I probably do less than you guys do, but, I'm in a different time zone.
When I did my thing at SourceCon this year, I did a presentation on like how to recruit before, during, and after in-person events. I've now had 3 messages. I've had 3 conversations with people. I've had a bunch of conversations about the session, but I've now had 3 different people say, have you thought about doing it this way? Have you tried this? And I look at them, I'm like, how the fuck did I not do that? Right? Like me being in front of the room also means you get to learn. Putting the information on LinkedIn also means you're going to learn. Like the value that the one person had, they gave me a sweet idea. And if this thing does, I will do a presentation on what they taught me how to do. And I gave them a bunch of cool stuff, which was awesome. But their one nugget opened up like an avenue of things that I hadn't thought about doing. And so that's the beauty in this, right? You created a conversation. And from that, like, what's the goodness that can come back around and it swirls around, right? Like that's when the cool stuff happens, right? It's not usually when you're listening to a presentation or giving it, it's all the cool conversation afterwards when 6 people are in a huddle and you go, oh no, I didn't ever do it that way. Or, oh, I did do it that way. Don't do that, but you could try this.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I do want to ask, because I didn't watch the last, and maybe it's not the right time, but you guys talked about the green banner last week. I don't know what the conversation was like, but can you just like, I don't know, in 10 seconds, tell me what that was all about?
I just
Paul-
want to say
Paul-
before we get into it, Paul, you're at 3 F-bombs apparently, according to David. So if you want to get those numbers up right now, go for it.
Oh,
That's
and Adam Fitz are saying, don't go there, Angie.
Too many.
But
Okay.
but do notice, there are, I don't know, it comes up. I think Amy Miller got caught up in another LinkedIn war over somebody saying that LinkedIn banners is an absolute sign of desperation.
So my
Paul,
take,
do you have a
simply,
position on this?
here's my perspective, and I've had a couple of people challenge me on the side too since my tirade. I think it is our job to find a job. We should use the tools that are available to us to find that job. So when I see wannabe career advice, job search people who are either looking for fame or fortune on LinkedIn, who are not well thought out, who say you shouldn't put on the green banner open to work. There's been another one. I saw another one. It was a very small instance where the person said, like, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't use up the real estate. They say, because when they used to use LinkedIn Recruiter, they would just search for people who were open to work. And I said, well, what about the tens of thousands of us who don't have access to LinkedIn Recruiter and don't have that search capability? And they go, oh, I didn't know that wasn't possible. And I'm like, then you should sit down.
Yeah.
Because
go back to STFU and study something else.
What's STFU, Steve?
Kunwar, you're the one who told me about it.
I think there's something about closing a front door. I think that's what it is.
it's closing the front door university.
Oh, like, would you like a glass to shut the hell up with that?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
No, I know, David, what it means. I would just
Yes, we know all that, and we know who it came from. Come on, David.
I think that's 2 F-bombs from you now. I'm just
Yes.
back too.
Yeah, I wanted someone to say it out loud.
I only
get-
wanted to do 1. I'm at 3. I won't go to 4.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So what's the opinion on those things, Paul?
Yeah.
just-
So is it desperation? Is it not desperation?
No.
What is it?
You got it to you. I would suggest you needed to use the tools that are available for you to find your next opportunity. And that means that you need to be able to say to people, I'm looking for, I believe you should be saying to people, while looking for a full-time role, I'm open to project and contract work. I think you should have the green banner on.
Absolutely.
I think that, like, you can't build a house with a hammer. You need a hammer and a screwdriver and a saw and a bunch of nails and some shingles and all the frames. Like, you need walls. Like, you can't. Also, as I would suggest, is that you shouldn't rely on a recruiter to reach out, a corporate recruiter or a search firm recruiter. You shouldn't rely on someone finding you and reaching out to you. You should advertise, for lack of a better word, that you are looking for a new gig.
And
And
the way
who-
to advertise is to as other people are saying, show your expertise.
Please.
Write about it. It doesn't have to be long.
Yeah.
Cindy, my sweet friend Cindy Davis gave me the inspiration a couple of weeks back about being overqualified is biased. I wrote a simple post. It's
Awesome.
being underqualified is very real. Being overqualified, being viewed as overqualified is bias. And I've got massive, massive eyeballs on that one because it resonated. Whatever you feel in your heart, write about it. It doesn't have to be War and Peace.
Or it doesn't have to be right or wrong. It's just
No opinion on it.
yeah.
Write about it. If you know what you do, go. I have a note number. I keep post-it notes. Write on post-it notes. Keep a book. Don't write it in a book. Oh, I'm gonna journal this shit, and then don't open and reread it. Write about if you're at your computer and things are happening, put post-it notes on them. Yeah, yes. You want to see mine for the day? These are mine that I've got. This is mine for the day. They're there. They're real.
But mine are better than yours because mine are Duran Duran post-it notes.
And by the way, just so you know, one of them. This is for Alicia Hamilton, who's on the call today. It's like Booleans for blah 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 blah. So that's what this says, Alicia.
Where'd you get Duran Duran post-it notes?
Well, I am a on the Duran Duran fan club, and so every year I get a gift from them. That was part of the gift. I also have where is it? I have my letter opener over here somewhere. It's a Duran Duran letter opener. I have a book, or my notepad is Duran Duran. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a nerd. I'm a big Duran Duran fan. I can't find that one, but I'll find it at some point. Yeah. So I have my Duran Duran post-it notes.
And by the way, it's also this stuff that we need more of. Like the I'm learning, or we're learning this about you. Like, this is also the fun stuff. This is the part where I keep saying, like, we're missing a lot of the human stuff. Because
Paul, you did not know I was a Duran Duran fan. We cannot be friends.
Well, we can be friends now.
I mean, now we can. Okay, after I stalked you in an elevator, now we can be friends.
We'll have to hit the reset button starting now.
By the way, Angie, I was just putting in the chat. This is a Duran Duran like shopping bag of sorts.
I got it all, Steve.
Okay, and just in case you didn't, that's okay.
I got Duran Duran. I got Duran Duran shirts. I got the album. I've got a little backpack. I got it all. I'm part of their fan club. I pay whatever it is every year, and I get my package and a signed note from Simon LeBon. A signed note, and I know he really signs it. Kumar laughing. He finally knows who Duran Duran is.
Last night they read my bio, which if I would have known they were going to read the bio, I wouldn't have given them the one I gave them, because I'm like, that's too much. I don't like bios. Anyway, one of the last lines of my bio is that I believe that one day the Gophers will go to the Rose Bowl. And I bet I had a half dozen people walk up to me yesterday or last night. 4 of them were University of Minnesota Gopher football fans. 2 were Badger fans. And the one says, I heard you hate. This is how she walked up to me like this. I heard you hate people like me. And I'm like, well, what kind of people are you? She goes, I'm a Badger fan. And I just turned away just to play with her. And she goes, oh, that's rude. I'm like, I'm just messing with you. I'm like, no, but I don't like, I love the University of Wisconsin. Madison's a great college town. I hate red and white stripes. I hate Bucky Badger. I have no problems with this. People in Minneapolis, like, they know. Many years ago, when I had the Minnesota recruiters group, I would do bets with people who were well, Shannon and I did one.
Yeah.
When I had to put a Badger thing on my Facebook profile for like a week. I did it with someone with ERE years ago, and they saw on Twitter, like, I actually had a tweet from the University of Minnesota Athletic Department asking me what was wrong, and they sent me a note. My ERE friend said, dude, take that off. You can't, it's 2 days. You can't handle anymore. It is okay. There's this part about it's okay to be yourself, but some self-awareness needs to happen too.
Of course.
Right? Like, I have at times overstepped my disappreciation for the Badgers during HR presentations and dropped F-bombs, and then they cut afterwards. But this is the part where I think that I need to tone some of my stuff down. I need to be a little more self-aware. Just because I'm self-employed or a consultant, it's also the part that I need to remind myself that there is also a responsibility that comes with that too, though. And so I can't just be like, you can Duran all day. No one should give you heck for that. I need to watch my Bucky Badger stuff, and I can't wait until Shannon, because for those who don't know, Shannon went to the University of Wisconsin and swam for UW. And so undoubtedly she'll send me a note and be like, hey, so this is Shannon, you know, I love you.
She'll actually be back for the next recruiter therapy, so you guys can hash it out at that one.
The thing is, Paul, Paul, she was an All-American and you weren't, so there's that.
I know.
Too.
So, and for the note, Gophers and Badgers always play Thanksgiving weekend that Saturday. So I'm glad that we've got a call before. We might have two before then, so I can really start the trash talk, because we do play for a trophy. We do currently have it because we went a lot of years without it. You'll hear the banter; it's amazing.
The thing is, you know, what you don't hear, you always hear the meme, honey badger don't give a shit. You never hear honey gopher don't give a shit. It just doesn't work. It's just badgers are just meaner.
The worst part is that the gopher is really should have been a squirrel or a chipmunk, but it was the 1800s, so they called it a gopher, but it was more like a chipmunk. Now you know.
I don't know. The more you know, the more you laugh.
But this is that part about like the Duran, like this is the part about getting to know people. And this is the part about I don't like using the word network. It's like I'm trying to find my posse. I'm trying to find my family. Family comes and go, friends come and go. There have been times when Steve and I we haven't chatted. We hadn't, except for until these last weeks. I don't think you and I've had a conversation in a year and a half until now.
That's fair. Yeah.
And the cool part though is you pick it up just where you left off, right? You quick check in on the parents, right? Because we both have aging parents. And then we're like, how are we doing with work? And then we get into the banter. I know that if the crap hits the fan for me in some way, and if I think that some way Steve could be of some help to me, I know I can text him at nearly any hour and he'll get back to me as quick as he can. And he knows that it goes both ways too.
Yeah.
And for not community and not for going to SourceCon, if not for doing webinars, if not for reaching out and saying hello, you know, Steve would be this really cool, he'd be one of those cool kids that I never got to know. Right. You know, you and I in the elevator, that sounds really weird to say out loud, by the way. But like, this is, I think what happens is that during COVID, particularly, we all went back on our islands again on ourselves or with ourselves. And like, I'm evented out. I think that since April, I've been to an event in Minneapolis at least every 3 weeks, recruiter, HR, or tech related. I'm a little peopled out right now.
That was like Derek Zeller used to have a shirt that said, "I hate people."
Yeah.
And there was some truth to that. You know, understandably, what you know, the profession is comprised of people who might be comfortable calling themselves introverts, and we have a hard time. Not now, and for those who are newer, you know, we can get up on stage now and spout, you know, hold up a rock and talk about a rock for an hour, and we can do that now. But it wasn't always like that.
Well, and it's also the recharge part. So for the Steve, you know, Kunwar, you know, like, so SourceCon was here in Minneapolis the same week that Twin City Startup Week was. No joke. I put in 90 hours in 6 days. And then we had a wedding that Saturday. After all of that ended, then it was kind of a quiet week, and then homecoming at the U of M. And then I caught a cold, and I went to another football game, and now I've had severe bronchitis for nearly 3 weeks. I am fully aware. I already know that when I do stuff like that, lots of human contact, lots of conversation, like your throat sore at the end of every day, you're completely zapped. I knew that I needed some time off. I just didn't have the affordability to do it. And then I picked up a bug. It is the part of that I recharge afterwards. I need quiet. I need silence. Thankfully, Tori, my girlfriend, she's in our world too. And so, and we're both the same way. And she was aware. Like, sometimes she'll say to me, and she says it affectionately, she's like, how much of a piece of crap are you going to be after this event? Right. And I'll be like, oh, kind of a piece or a really smelly piece, but because it's just true.
Yeah.
I don't go to these things. I want to go home tired. Like that's sort of the goal. Like, did I talk to people? Did I meet some people? Did I help some people? Did I help people connect? Right. It was a lot of the stuff at SourceCon was you would see people standing on their own by themselves. And it would literally be like, you just would walk over them and say, hi, my name is, and, you know, do you know anybody? And it's always an awkward response because no one wants to say no. There were some of the small sessions at SourceCon where the speakers, we talked about it ahead of time, intentionally said, that they took the first 4 minutes of their session to say, hey, if you don't know anybody in the room, raise your hand. And if you're sitting next to someone who's raising their hand, please say hello. You don't necessarily want to lose a chunk of your time when you're giving a presentation, but that's the goal of these events, though, is to be able to walk out with a posse of people that you can learn from and talk to and commiserate with and celebrate with.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that everybody in the chat, I'm seeing a bunch of people posting their LinkedIn profiles and do that connection.
And by the way, if you do connect with either Paul or me, make sure you're calling me Steve and Paul Paul. It just happened. I don't think folks have confused you with us, Ange.
That's true. That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but I don't mean that negative. It just happened. It was a
You're
good
smarter
laugh.
and better looking. I just happen to have the hair.
Oh God, you know, it's like you got to put the hip waders on at times when you're talking, Paul, because it's like a herd of diuretic cattle are walking through. The bullshit's starting to pile up.
Yeah, this is gonna be a death sentence for me. But did you say smarter and better looking for Steve?
I did. I'm trying to be respectful of my elders.
No, Kunwar was saying a death sentence for him. That's what he was referring to. But you know, but a couple of things just before, you know, because we didn't get to them, but you know, we had a whole couple of questions in that were you know given to us ahead of time, didn't we, Kunwar?
Kunwar, can we go a few minutes over if we make it fast?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so let's go through some of these questions. I'm going to read them off as they are, and I'd like to have Angie, Paul,
Angie, you go first on all of them.
Okay, so this is it. Is it worth even applying online to roles, or should we just go by referrals or your network? For example, I spoke with a friend who was laid off in January, and he submitted 100 apps and got one interview. What is everyone's take on filling out applications? How many applications is too many?
So I will say, and I think I'm going to kind of echo some of what Paul said earlier. I think it's what you want. I mean, if I'm looking for a job, I'm not going to submit 100 applications because I probably don't want to work at 100 places. I'm probably going to select the places that I want to work at and submit my resume to those specific companies, specific openings. But on top of that, and this is me, I am going to see if I know somebody who's there or know somebody who knows somebody who's there. And I may follow the process first. I may wait until I have a conversation with someone that knows someone there, because they may say, look, we use a filtering system and your resume is never going to hit our recruiters, or whatever the case may be. But most of the times I would go to someone who knows someone. Like if I wanted to go work at, I don't know, ZipRecruiter, and Steve knew somebody there. I don't know why I said ZipRecruiter because I don't know, but anyway, and Steve knew somebody at ZipRecruiter. I would ping him and say, who do you know there? And see if he could make a connection, or if Steve says, use my name. That's the way that I would do it first. If they told me that I needed to apply to the job, then clearly I would apply to the job. But I think, someone who was laid off in January, submitted 100 applications, got one interview. Maybe are you over submitting, 100 applications? Whole other conversation, but I knew somebody who created a bot to submit applications. He was a speaker at Talent 42 a couple of years ago. Who did it because he couldn't get an interview. And then he got recognized for building this bot that submitted resumes to, to companies. So I think it's your own threshold. Like, how much time do you want to spend? I'm also very nerdy and tech, like where I would create a spreadsheet. and I would list the companies I want to work for, who are my contacts, who can make a connection. I mean, very intentional. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I think to each their own, however you feel comfortable. But quite honestly, I mean, submitting 100 applications, that's a lot. Those are a lot of applications. And what if 50 of those people come back to you? How are you going to manage that?
So I think for me, the answer is yes and yes. Yes, I'm going to apply. Yes, I'm going to reach out to someone. The 100 thing, though, if we think about it, we're now in the 11th month of the year. So if that's 10 months, that's only 10 a month. That's only 2.5 a week.
What else are you doing?
But if this was 100 back in March or in the month of January, this is the part where I'm saying to you, this is the part where I'm trying, not to you, Angie, to everyone else. I'm trying to express listening to someone else's story usually leaves more questions than answers. A. B, it's also the part of the reminder of, because I had a couple of friends this week, right? When you see that on LinkedIn that 3,000 people have applied for this job, and one of us mentioned this in one of the last 2 calls we did, 3,000 people clicked a button. We do not know after that how many actually finished the process. We do not know how many of them are in the region or the country in which the job is posted. We do not know how many of them are actually qualified. We don't know how many of them are actually only looking for a remote role when this one's a hybrid role. Again, you cannot assume that 3,000 highly qualified people applied for that role, so now you should not. No. You don't know this stuff. And I know this because like our event on Friday was at Best Buy corporate headquarters. And so I asked them, like on that one role, how many people applied? And to be fair to them, they had a role. They got multiple hundreds worth of candidates. It was an intermediate type role. And I'll leave it vague on what it was because it doesn't matter. I said, of the multiple hundreds, how many of them actually fit what you were looking for? 32. Now, 32 is still a tough number if you're doing that, but it wasn't multiple hundreds. It was 32. And so now if you were to reach out to someone, because I asked the question, how many people reached out to you? 4. 4 out of 32, I can compete with that group. I want a shot at that group. I want to be one of 5 now because one of 5 is all we're ever looking for anyway.
Yeah.
And so this is that not listening to these, God, the wannabes on LinkedIn are killing me. I'll just leave it there.
Let me do my quick.
Sorry, I thought those 100 applications were like submitted 100. Like I just submitted 100. That's why I said 100. Yeah, but since
it could have been too. I might have misread it too.
Yeah, no, I misread it because it was since January.
Oh, okay. Steve, what you got?
Well, first we're making a couple of assumptions here. My first assumption is, look, it's and this sounds kind of crass, but look, a click to apply, it's the easy button, and even a blind squirrel can catch a nut from time to time. So
even a blind squirrel using ChatGPT can send 1,000.
Yeah, or even a blind squirrel, submitting it to Workday. Okay, maybe not Workday. Never mind. But the other part that's interesting to me is, and I've seen this because all the people I've spoken to, resumes. Let's be honest, people aren't really good at writing resumes. People aren't good at writing profiles. Gosh, I mean, I've looked at enough resumes from people who've had me take a look at them. I go, I can see why no one's getting back to you on this. So volume. It's a false number. It gives you a false sense of reality. So I'll just leave it as that. The second thing is that, to the point I made earlier is if you see a role that really, really appeals to you for any reason, do a post on it. Tag somebody. What's the worst that can happen? Do a little, faux recruiting plan or sourcing plan. Show there's some Booleans that are just going to knock their socks off. But do something to stand out, because there's an interesting one I'm trying today. It's some I won't tell the company, but they go, talk to me about the hardest search you ever had to get someone in the door. It's a stupid question. Let's be honest, because I'm going to say also, I'm curious to see what your rubric's going to look like to assess this one. Look, there's a lot of stupid in job applications. They don't have one, Steve. Of course, yes, it's a rhetorical question. It's a rhetorical question.
I'll settle down.
But let me just let's move to another question here.
Because we've got a hard stop.
I
We
hate,
do-
just told
I
us we
hate
got
to
3
do
minutes.
this, but
Yeah.
I'm going to put a hard stop so we can end at 2:10 because I know people have meetings to go to, including
Okay,
myself.
then let's just go a little hard stuff. Let's get back to these questions next 2 weeks, because these are some important ones. The discussions about compensation, how to really talk about comp, knowing that there's a real chance you're getting cut because you're not making it through because you want too much money.
Angie, what's something that somebody should do in the next 3 days, week or 2 until we do this again? What would be just something you would suggest people do?
Good question.
I would say, first of all, connect with me. And I would say, yes, definitely connect with me and Steve and Paul and Ashley and Kunwar. Connect with all of us.
Yes.
And then I would say, I love Steve's idea. Write a post or step outside your comfort zone and reach out to someone and ask for help. Ask them for advice. Doesn't take much.
Steve?
If you want to write a post, ping me. I'll help you do it.
Or you could
What's
use
your
And
thing?
I'm also going to help you, look at your LinkedIn profile. And yes, Mr. Gray, you took that thing off your profile. Good idea. But get eyeballs from people who hire and go, look, is there any red flag here that you're just embarrassed to look at, for lack of a better, not really embarrassed to look at, but use your community. Everybody on this chat, I hope you're all connecting with each other.
So mine's going to be this, because I gave this advice a few weeks ago and it worked for a friend in Indianapolis. So this is sort of, so the Inc. 500 that used to be what is now the Inc. 5000 used to be the Inc. 500. So now it's 5,000 of the fastest growing privately held companies in the US. Find the ones in your state. It's a simple search. Like you just go in and you say Indiana. And so in Minnesota's case, there was like 80 some this year. There were 17 I didn't know of. It's not that I know of every company in my state, right? But there were 17 I didn't know. So there was a friend of mine, a corporate recruiter in Indianapolis, and I said, go do that search. And they did. And that they contacted all the companies they didn't know, contacted the CEO at most of the companies because they were under 300. And so she said, hi, my name is an IMA, and she just gave a simple pitch. And if you happen to be looking for someone like me, I'm paraphrasing, right? Sure as shit. One of the groups was like, yeah, we don't even have a career page. We don't even have a place to post our jobs. We've been looking for someone like you. And so instead of applying for the same job that everybody's seeing on LinkedIn and Indeed, which you should also do, but diversify your job pool, right? Like there are a lot of companies. If you are living in rural areas or near a rural area, so like in Minneapolis, right? Oh crap, Kumar, I'm sorry. It's like St. Cloud's an hour away. But if you live in the Northwest burbs, now St. Cloud's only 40 minutes away. And if you only need to be in the office 2 days a week, like there's a bunch of companies hiring in central Minnesota right now who can't find a corporate recruiter because we're all in Minneapolis, St. Paul, broadly speaking.
Yeah.
Like in non-metropolitan areas around the country, a lot of communities, they're still having the war for talent. They still don't have enough bodies. That manufacturing company in the town of 35,000 still can't find enough people. They need your skill set. I appreciate the salary might not be the same or the contract rate might not be the same. I'm still suggesting to you that I want you to put money in your pocket one way or another so you can get through this.
I love that, Paul. That's amazing.
And one final thing I'm putting in this chat, this is iSIMS has a nice little site, Jobs for HR. And going to get to it right now. If I can get to it very quickly, I'm going to put it here. It's a nice place, and Workable has one too. If you want Boolean, send me Boolean. If you want some information on specific Google alerts that have to do with job search Booleans for all the ATSs, I'll have them and I'll send them to you. 2 weeks from today, you can use the same registration information, but send us your questions, connect with us, and don't give up.
Yes.
And if you've got good news to share, make sure we're doing that too.